United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
I will faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of President of the Village of Homer Glen.
the office of the President of Homer Glen, Mayor. Or George. Okay. I'll be the president for tonight and the mayor tomorrow, and George as soon as I want.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
Congrats.
I, Christine,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
Clerk of the Village of Homer Glen
the Clerk of the Village of Homer Glen
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Now we're going to have Beth. There she is. How you doing? All right. I state your name.
I, Beth Rogers,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of trustee for the Village of Homer Glen
the office of Trustees for the Village of Homer Glen
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next will be Ann. Hi, Ann. Raise your right hand. Good. I state your name.
Ann Holmes,
Do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
do hereby solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
I know it's a bad place. We'll get through it. And that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the trustee for the Village of Homer Glen
of the trustee of the Village of Homer Glen
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Good luck.
Mark, start.
Way to start, huh? Right. All right. I state your name.
I, Ruben Padino,
Solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
trustee for the Village of Homer Glen
trustee of the Village of Homer Glen
to the best of your ability.
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
I would like to thank everyone for coming out. This is very important to the village. We have trustees that have been with us for a long time, trustees that have been with us for some time, and new trustees that are coming on board, which would be Ann and Ruben. Very happy that we're all here to work together on this. Our village is growing. It's not growing too fast. It's in a place right now where between the 6 trustees, myself, and our staff, because everyone's important here, that we make this to what the residents are looking for, and we're working as hard as we possibly can. So with that, I'd like time I've done that.
Yes, it is.
Christine went from trustee, she is at the point of clerk right now, and I promise I will never do
I
that.
won't let you forget.
And I know you won't. So Christine is our new village clerk. She took Ann's spot, Ann took her spot, and same thing. I'm very happy to have the crew that I do have. So with that, we have cake and coffee. We're going to zip you all up, and you all have a great night. Thank you. All right, if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Trustee Gray.
Present.
Trustee Holtz.
Present.
Trustee Rogers.
Present.
Trustee Suisse.
Present.
Trustee Casimino.
Present.
Trustee Varian.
Present.
Mayor.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? No, so we will be going to, is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2019 Special Village Board meeting?
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
Second.
Trustee Rogers, discussion. After we get done with this one, we'll be busy, weren't here for the last one, you guys stayed from voting, and you were here, so how's that work? With her being recorded, she voted, okay, just want to make sure. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next will be reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll start off real quick. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting has been awarded to the Village of Homer Glen by Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA. For its comprehensive annual financial report, the Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of government accounting and finance reporting. And its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. This marks the village's 17th straight CAFR award. Thank you to the Finance Director, John Sawyer, and Accounts Clerk, Gina Spino, and her efforts in achieving this award once again. The award is exceptionally important sign of the Village of Homer Glen's ongoing commitment to financial integrity. One other thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the people that did go out and vote for the last election. But I hope everyone understands it's a privilege and an honor. We only had 11% go out. It would be nice if we could get everyone out to vote. It's very important. This is your community. Next, we'll go to the trustees. We'll start out with Trustee Suisse.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Environment Committee, the next stargazing event will be held this Friday, May 10th, in the Heritage Park. It will be from 8 to 10 p.m. Stop by the community room at 7:30 to meet Sky the Hawk, provided by Pilcher Park and his caretaker, Nancy Carlson. Light refreshments will be available. The Big Tree Champion Contest has commenced. Applications can be found on the village website. This year's nominations must surpass the champions from 2018, which are also listed on the village website. That concludes my report. And hope for good weather on Friday night.
Thank you, Trustee Suisse. Trustee Casimino. If you have something to say, speak. If you don't, then it's very important.
Well, then I'll take this moment to thank the constituents and businesses for honoring me with the pleasure of the position of trustee. And I'd like to reaffirm my commitment to the village, and I look forward to working with my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Casimino. Trustee Rogers.
Just a reminder that the inauguration for the Michael Olivare American Legion goes to 11
Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be reporting on behalf of the Homer Community Festival Committee. First, the entire committee would like to say a very big thank you to former trustee Carlo Caprio for his years of dedication and commitment to the fest and to its success. Carlo will continue to be a member of the Fest Committee, and we're grateful for his continued support. The festival dates are Thursday, June 20th through Sunday, June 23rd. Our plans continue to come together for our move to Heritage Park that will be right out behind us. We're hoping for great weather. We have a total of 6 food vendors now this year as opposed to 7 that Carlo had reported in the past. So more information on that will be coming. Thursday, June 20th is fireworks night. Friday, June 21st is Special Needs Day, which is in planning. That'll be from 2:30 to 4:30 for Homer residents with special needs and their families. We have many sponsors who have joined this year and always looking for more. And we're always looking for volunteers. You can visit homerfest.com or go on social media. We're on Facebook and a few other things, which I'm not really familiar with. And reporting on behalf of the Public Service and Safety Committee, the committee continues discussing updates to the village's AED ordinance. We're gathering more information on business types, square footage, uses, and the possibility of tying new limits to license requirements. We're exploring many avenues and trying to pull that data together. So we'll continue to explore those options and hopefully have a recommendation sometime in the future. And just a reminder that with the spring weather upon us and recent heavy rains, the problem of creek maintenance has come up and was briefly discussed by the committee. We would like to remind property owners along the various creeks that the creeks are the village's natural drainage system and that they need to be cleaned of debris and blockages. The maintenance of the creek is the responsibility of the property owner, so if there's a blockage on your portion of the creek, please have it removed. Never dispose of pollutants, waste, or yard clippings into the creeks. And if there are any questions regarding the creeks, please contact the village at 708-301-0632. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Gray.
Thank you.
Village Attorney.
No report, Your Honor.
Jesus Christ.
I have no report on it. No report.
Today's, you gotta get me through today.
It's a one-off.
Public safety officials.
No report this evening.
Administrative analyst.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reporting on behalf of the Active Core project progress. 100% of the plantings and landscaping should be on site this week. The project has yet to begin paving, but the forecast for next week looks promising, so hopefully we will let the board know that when paving begins. Also, our landscape architect firm, Greenberg Farrow, is currently designing designs for accessible entrances to the restroom buildings, and we will share that with the board when those become available. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Village manager.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to congratulate our new village clerk and our new elected trustees. I didn't forget you. And I just want to say I look forward to, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
It's well deserved.
And I want to say that myself as well as the entire staff looks forward to working with the entire board. I did, at the request of Trustee Gray, want to give a brief update on the 319 grant. That's as part of the Heritage Park development that's occurring, and I know there's been some inquiries of the status of that, so I just wanted to let everyone know that today the snow fencing was removed, and there's going to be some additional work happening here in the next couple of weeks, where we're going to have some additional plantings that are going to be installed, both in the lawn area as well as in the pond that's right off to the east here, and so you'll see some additional activity happening for the 319 grant as well.
Thank you, village manager. Village clerk, you got anything to say?
No, I'm
I'm
good.
going to ask you a few times today, just to make sure. All right, next is public comment. Okay, if you could please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it. All right. There's a lot on here that's the same thing, so if something does get talked about and you don't have anything new to say, if you could just take a pass on it. First, we'll start with Mr. Walters.
Kujas. I am the owner and proprietor of High Five Honey in Romeoville, Illinois. I recently met your clerk, and she asked me to come to the board meeting tonight to talk a little bit about bees, as I know you guys are considering maybe some changes to your ordinance. But first and foremost, let me thank you all for your service and your recent elections or re-elections. I served 6 years on the Valley View School Board. I know the things you do for your community and the time you put in and what it takes away from your family. So thank you. A little bit about honeybees that I can tell you quickly. I can tell you all the high-level things that honeybees are responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of food that go in your mouth, that they create gorgeous flower gardens and beautiful vegetable beds. I can continue to tell you all about the obvious ones, but I want to really hone in on some key things that you should think about as a board. I'm also part of the Will County Beekeepers Association, and I sit on their governmental affairs committee, so I get to come and talk to villages from time to time about these issues. The first issue I would say is I've never gone to a meeting to talk to a village when they were having a problem with bees, unless really it was a neighbor issue. We don't really see problems with bees, but we see as problems with neighbors. And I'm sure that comes up regardless of whether it's bees, garbage, music, noise. Your public safety officials could probably share those stories with you. 55% of the Will County communities have no ordinances regarding bees, including some of the largest, like Bolingbrook and Romeoville, which I happen to live in Romeoville. I live on a standard lot, 80 by like 120. I have 4 beehives. One of my neighbors doesn't know that I have beehives until I showed up at the yard with a whole bunch of honey. Beekeeping is not obstructive to your neighbors. It's actually beneficial. And one of the things that's interesting about beekeeping is that it can be done in really small lots. One beekeeper in Romeoville has a 80 by 80 lot that he keeps 2 hives on. And why is that? Oftentimes what we see communities do is want to restrict the land area that bees can be on. They might say it can only be on 10 acres or 5 acres. A bee will travel looking for nectar over 50,000 acres. So it kind of in the beekeeping world, it's a little bit of a joke when it's like, hey, we're gonna restrict beekeeping to this 5 acres. The bees could care less. They're gonna go up to 50,000 acres. So we're saying, hey, if you have to have a property that's 10 or 5 or 20 acres, really doesn't accomplish the goal that maybe you were trying to accomplish with that, to keep bees on someone's property. Really what we deal with in terms of stinging insects are wasps. Most of you are very familiar with wasps, but sometimes bees get mistaken for wasps. But wasps are what we're really dealing with. Bees are in low numbers, so it's rare to actually see a honeybee. Most of what you see out there are wasps, and that's what's causing the problem. Here are some natural barriers to beekeeping that I would say do better than the regulations that any community could put on beekeeping. The number one natural barrier to beekeeping is it's expensive. So if a new beekeeper comes to me and says, hey Rick, what am I looking at? I'm going to tell them they're looking at between $700 and $1,000 to get in. And 55% of the beekeepers in Illinois last year, or 2 years ago, lost their bees. So they put all that money in it and the bees died over the winter. That's the second thing to remember. Our weather helps you. You will not see bees for 6 months of the year. 6 months of the year, they will be in the hive. So they're really not present in the community, only for half the year. The other thing is beekeeping is hard. Like I just mentioned, over 50% of the bees die over the winter. So what beekeepers learn really quick is this isn't for everybody. It's an agricultural skill that takes lots of training through groups like the Will County Beekeepers. JJC offers coursework. But here's some of the benefits of beekeeping. Currently, right now in Romeoville, I'm working with my bees on a wetland restoration project, which we look to be able to get some grant money because we have a pollinator source there for over $10,000 to restore a previous pretty deteriorated piece of property. Community involvement. I've spoken in the last 4 years at over 24 school events in our local school community, including next week for one with over 300 third and fifth graders at one of our local elementary schools. Community. At the community fairs and events, I'm present and other beekeepers are present, and we build community around beekeeping. And neighbors have bonded over this, where I have neighbors from Eastern Europe, and I have neighbors from Mexico, and neighbors from all over the country, and we all bond over, oh, my grandfather kept bees, and this kept bees. Bees really build a community, which I'm sure is really important to all of you. And last but not least, beekeeping is a chance for me to have this experience with my family. It's a It's a home-based business that I do with my family. If you go on my Facebook page, High Five Honey, my 13-year-old takes videos of us. I had a state rep out to my beehives, and the state rep said to my 13-year-old, "Do you like bees?" And my 13-year-old said, "No, I don't like bees. I just like hanging out with my dad." So my advice for you guys is, pun intended, maybe just let bees be. Thanks for your guys' time.
Thank you. Next would be Carol Garner.
I'd like to wait also until that issue comes up,
Okay.
please.
Ronald Garner the same.
Yes, I'd like to wait as well, please.
Christine Wren.
I won't wait. Hi, my name is Christine Wren. I'm a working professional and we have 2 young kids, and I am a Woodbine West homeowner. I want to kind of start by just saying thank you for the incredible Heritage Park and community resource. I foresee it as our town's crown jewel, benefiting all residents of all ages, not just children, promoting health and physical activity, bringing our neighborhoods together, and ultimately reducing our carbon footprint. I'm very proud of the work that you've accomplished so far, and our family is really looking forward to the finishing touches in the coming weeks, as well as months, years. We appreciate that you are staying true with our core values and seeking input from the homeowners in the surrounding communities. And ultimately, my family and I are completely in favor of the proposed Northwest Bike Path that is going to be discussed later today. We would love to be able to go outside our house, go for a walk, ride our bikes, push my kids in the stroller and safely access the community park without having to get into my car or weave my kids through parking lots and or on safeties or through the streets or drag them through the grass. And to me, this community, what this Heritage Park represents is community and nature in harmony. So that's kind of our guideline. So I'm in favor, and that's good. Thanks for your time and attention.
Thank you, Christine. Michelle Parcha.
Hi, it's me again. I came to the meeting about 2 weeks ago, I think it was. Michelle Parcham, I live in Woodbine West Estates. I see a lot of my neighbors here today to talk about the proposed Northwest Bike Plan. And, you know, my goal is to get access to this park, better access to this park. And I would hope that the village would do a fair and equitable, if you're going to ask our opinions, I think it should be fair and it should be done by the village versus, you know, going around and gathering people up and trying to get their opinions and trying to maybe bully people into changing their opinions. I think we all should respect each other's opinions and we should be heard, not only Woodbine West Estates, but the other homeowners that are down Dixon Lane and so on. So I appreciate a fair and the transparency that you guys have shown. So that's what I think.
Thank you, Michelle. Franco Lone.
Mine is also going to be under L2. Do you want me to speak now? I do, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You can hold on. Ted Borowski.
Also wait for I2.
Okay. Mr. Coy. Good to see you, John.
Thank you. Good to be here for a change. Everybody knows we have a water problem out here. The only thing is, to give you an idea, you could just take these real quick. You guys probably don't care whether to see them or not. They're just pictures of Yankees parking at them. The first one here, we're going to get 143rd Street extension pretty soon. Right here are the detention ponds they put in for 143rd Street. Then the water, they don't even hold the water. That's when the park, which is Yankees Park, there's part of the problem too. There's the street in Sylvan Hills has, anyway, the water goes under the bridge and it isn't big enough. It won't let the water escape out of Yankees Park, and my neighbor's house almost flooded. we're adding to a problem now with water, so let's look into a little bit of help when it comes to this water problem. Like those pictures we'll show you, especially when it says 143rd Street. That was taken the same day, within a half an hour of when I took the pictures of Yankees Park. You see Yankees Park is flooded from one end to the other. IAW, Illinois American Water's in there too. Their plant was underwater. Now, 6 years ago, I think I was with you, Mr. Mayor, and we walked in there in the water, almost up to our knees, with two other fellows that were on the board at the time, and we had a smell. Illinois American Water, that's the sewer treatment plant. They were discharging, which they had the authority to do, which I found out. In a storm like that, they can't handle it, so they can discharge raw materials right out into that park. Why do you have I don't understand why you have a wetland next to a sewer treatment plant, which was built before I even came out here, and I came out here approximately 50-some years ago, so, and that was already there. So nobody knew about development. But right now, if you don't watch what you're doing with Goodings Grove, you're going to be backing more water up that way. Orland Park, put in a new subdivision, 139th and Wolf Road. Where's that water going? West, right to Yankees Park. When they did 143rd, I think our county really put it to us. When they did that, they say that 143rd Street, under the street are these big culverts. There is where the water is being held. They ain't holding no water under the street. If we ever do anything, I would really like to see somebody get out there from our village, put some barricades up, go down in the manholes and just take a look and see how much water is down there. Look down after we haven't had any rain, then go down there and look after we do have a rain. See how much water it's holding. Because those culverts, when I was taking pictures of them, they're only 5, 6 foot. So they might go 50 or 100 feet. Ooh, would be. Yankees Park's got billions and billions of gallons of water in there. That's almost it's a quarter mile by half a mile, the size of that. And that thing, you can see in the pictures, it's full all the way up to the parking lot. Anyway, that Goodings Grove, like I say, I would seriously look into that because that underpass on Bell Road, I don't think it's big enough either because on the east side is one big floodplain there. The only nice thing I saw was in my travels, I saw it in the park we built behind Home Depot there. That is high enough that it's out of the flood zone. That was good. The only thing is, like I say, we're going to get more water into this. All right, we have a fellow that helped redo the VFW out in Lockport. He was in banking, and he just passed away, and nobody even knew he was sick. But he went to the doctor, went to the hospital. From there, he was in the hospital, and with that, he died there. And nobody seems to know what the reason was, but anyway, he's being awake tomorrow if anybody's interested. And it's at Colonial Funeral Chapel, one block west of Harlem, 137. Anyway, Colonial Chapel is where he's being placed. Other than that, like I say, if they keep building and we keep taking Orland's water and there's only one place for it to go, and that's through us to get where it's got to go, I mean, we're going to have to start watching them a little bit too with their building, because if you take 143rd Street, that street is closed off every time we get a heavy rain. Where does that water go? When they put in 143rd Street, what they did was they went under Will Cook Road into Cook County and tied into their sewer system, which thusly gives Yankees Park, and then they went down on the Cook County side, went back under the street and right into Yankees Park. What is wrong with this idea? Something. Did Orland Park give us any money for doing that? Why didn't they enlarge their water, a holding area for the water? Why did we have to suffer with it? And we'll suffer for a long time with it at the rate that you're going, cleaning this stuff up. And that underpass, there could be a culvert on one side or the other. Make it wider so it lets the water go, don't hold it up. And another thing, for that bike trail, that I haven't looked at because my neighbor says there is junk there. He says, I don't know how much water it's holding. But anyway, that gets all clogged up. Mike, have you been out there lately?
No, it's not my responsibility.
Oh, whose is it? Oh, we don't even know.
Right here.
Oh, well, why don't you say something, John? Come on.
We go out there, we check it, and we probably clean it out 3 times a year. So we're always getting debris that get held up at that box culvert there, so.
Right, well, like I said.
And we checked the one at Yangus that goes through, past Yangus Park there. We checked that one that goes under our trail too. And with the rain we just had, we had pictures of it and it was flowing freely, so there was nothing blocking that one, so.
Because like I say, it was the first time in my lifetime living there that park emptied the water faster than normal, which was godsend because, like I say, my neighbor, her house with a walkout basement, which is finished, it flooded once, and you never know what's going on right now. So, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yep. If you need any help down the line, I'll be glad to do it. Looking and showing where your problems are.
1 second. Okay, that ends public comment. We will go into the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. So is there a motion to approve the following items? 1, the purchase of a Ventrac tractor with attachments for the maintenance of the village parks and trail systems in the amount of $39,293.80. Number 2, a proposal for a prescribed burn and seeding of natural areas in Kern Hills Park in the amount of $5,700. Third, the purchase of a 2019 Ford Escape for the administrative department in the amount of $20,017. Fourth, pay estimate number 7 from Austin Tyler Construction, Inc. for the Fittyman Creek Sanitary Sewer Project in the amount of $217,712.13. Number 5, pay estimate number 7 for Integral Construction, Inc. for the Active Core Project in Heritage Park in the amount of $40,254. And last, the purchase of a Kubota RTV X1140 for the maintenance of the village's parks and trail systems in the amount of $28,503.75.
So moved.
A second.
Okay, Trustee Rogers, discussion? So everyone knows, the village ourselves are the ones that maintain the property. We don't have an outside service. The outside service was very expensive. It's much cheaper for our people to do it. We need the equipment for them to be able to do it. And the price would still be much cheaper than if we outsourced it. And we do a very nice job. So that is why we are buying some of the equipment for the parks that we have and the parks that we're going to be in. So if there's nothing else, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Barrion?
Aye.
Trustee Grazino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. Legislation items. Variance to reduce a required side yard setback. Is there a motion to approve approving a variance to reduce the required side yard setback for the proposed addition from 25 feet to 19 feet. For certain real property located in the R1 Single Family Residential District at 14530 136th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, HG-1908-V, 14530 plus 136th Street.
I so moved.
Trustee Berrien and Trustee Rogers.
Yes, it's me.
Oh, Trustee Sweet. I'm sorry. Discussion.
Mayor, I understand variances should be held for a hardship, and in this case, I do understand that it's definitely a hardship, so I have no issue with it.
Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Barron?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holt?
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to approve the following items related to the construction of Heritage Park Northwest Bike Trail? Okay. Proceed with the design and construction of the Heritage Park Northwest Bike Trail at this time. Approval of an agreement with HR Green to provide design and construction engineering services for the Heritage Park Northwest Bike Trail for not to exceed $6,000 for design engineering and $6,000 for construction engineering. And third, approval of a change order with deconstruction for the additional costs related to the construction of the Heritage Park Northwest Bike Trail based on a unit price for the 151st Street Bike Trail, for which deconstruction was awarded the contract for construction, being the lowest responsible bidder for that project.
So moved.
Trustee Rogers?
Second.
Trustee Berrien? Discussion?
Mayor, should we listen, hear the comments first, or do we discuss this first? How do we?
Well, I thought maybe the comments first. So this way we're just not voting on it and bypassing it. So,
Mr. Mayor, can I just give a brief background on why this is before you tonight? It's such a quick turnaround from the last board meeting where it was discussed, if you don't mind, and then you can open it up.
yeah.
So this was a unique opportunity that presented itself because of the construction of the 151st bike path that is being proposed right now. And actually, we're getting ready to do a pre-construction meeting for that to start. And based on the input we received from the trustees and the board at the last meeting, as well as us going back and staff really becoming creative in how can we do this and do it in an expedited manner and also save money at the same time, we propose what you have before you tonight on your agenda, where we can do the change order and we can allow the same contractor who's going to be installing the 151st bike path to also do this additional connection. That will provide public access for hundreds of families who live in the general vicinity of the Heritage Park, which was the feedback we received and direction received from the board. So this is a unique opportunity, and timing is critically important because of that, because we don't want to stall the 151st Street bike path when we move forward, and we really want to make sure that we're able to complete both of them at the same time, and also prior to the opening the celebration of the Action Corps, which is going to be scheduled here in the coming weeks during the summer months when that's ready to be open. So it's really a unique opportunity for timing as well as to be able to save some money in the same process. So that's why we were able to turn it around so quickly and bring it back to the board.
Okay. All right. For all the people that want to talk about this, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you have specific questions that you want to ask or you want to tell us? Or are you comfortable with what was just explained to you?
No.
You have things to say?
John Walters, I live at 14729 Dixon. It's across the pond from where this proposed path is being proposed to be put in. One thing I'm kind of disappointed. For 2 years now, we've been told that there would be community input before anything was done, and all of a sudden, this is on the agenda right away. It's got to be done right now.
We were told there would be community input, so we were pretty quiet. The people that, you know, there are ways, we all want access to the park. We all want it to be reasonable access to the park. And there are ways to do it. And I've asked trustees to come out. And until the last week, Sharon came out and Keith came out. Nobody's come out to talk to us. We have problems with trespassers already, especially at that pond. And you're going to put a path there and propose benches. And people are going to park there and think that that pond is part of the park. They're going to come there. In fact, last week I had to call 911 because 4 young men told my wife that she should go perform a sex act on herself because she told them to respect the property in which they weren't doing. And the police could be called 4 or 5 times a day for trespassers, and we don't call unless they're abusive. Second of all, there's a lot of vandals in our subdivision and in other subdivisions. You open up the back of the park, the kids are going to be in there at night. And at the end, where the blockade is at the end of Dixon, people come down there and drink, and there's empty bottles and stuff there. And I think one time somebody actually discharged firearms there. Gary? Yes. So you're inviting those people to come back into the park, into the back of the park, where it's dark, where there's less access. You're inviting people to come in our subdivision that have no business being in our subdivision. We've already had an increase in crime in our subdivision because of the truck depots in Lockport. People come down 147th and they think it's a good place to hang out. You're proposing this path to go over drainage that leaves our pond. I don't think anybody's looked at that. Is that going to damage our drainage that comes out of our pond and goes into the creek on the north side? From the pond on the south to the creek on the north side. The path would go right over that. And basically, I'm really upset that we didn't have any community input. That all of a sudden I see this on the agenda and we are promised the community input. That's all we're asking for. Reasonable community input. There are ways that we can have access to this park, but I don't think this is the way to do it. A 10-foot wide blacktop path is going to make it look like 147th Street goes straight through into the park. We already have problems with people in the winter almost going over the curb because they think 147th Street is a through street, and it's not. One year we had a lady when it was still a golf course go over, airborne, through our common area and into the golf course. People think it's a through street. If you put a 10-foot blacktop there, they're going to think more that it's a through street. That's all I have to say right now.
Thanks, Mr. Small. Gary, do you have anything to say?
Hi, my name is Gary White. I live at 14647 Dixon Lane. Excuse me. I own 1,000 feet of property just on the other side of that fence. And nobody has contacted me. I thought we had transparency here to explain what's going on here. And all of a sudden it sounds like that we're ready for P.T. Farrell to move in. Underneath where they want the path, there is a water line that feeds Woodbine West. At the very end of my property and over by Coachman Lane, that's all wetland. Its water stands there just about year round, and nobody has mentioned anything about that part of the wetland. And if you want to put an entrance in the middle there, then I want my property fenced between the asphalt pathway and my property. And also at the beginning, Dixon Lane and 151st, nobody's going to use that. They're going to cut across my property to get over to that path. I'm not too happy with the path, but the property is there for it, but it's not going to work out the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Mr. or Mrs. Garner, whichever one you want to talk.
Thank you. I'm Bob Garner. I live at 14742 Dixon Lane. And, I would like access to the park as well. I think an idea was floated about having private access from people's yards. I understand there may be some difficulties with that from a liability standpoint. I'd like to know that that option was fully explored. My main concern is pretty much echoes John Walters about vandalism in the area, making that pond look like it's part of the park. And if there's a way to address that with fencing, I think that would be good. Fencing would be unattractive, but that might be preferable than even more trespassers at that pond than we have today. The homeowners association dues pay for pond maintenance, and the more people that are back in that pond, the more money that will cost the residents. I think everything else that I was going to say has been said already. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Frank Olone.
Frank Olone, 14419 West Renmore Road, Woodbine West. I've been a resident there for the last 15 years. I've served on the homeowners board for the last 13. I understand exactly what Michelle and Christine are saying about access to the park, and I think there should be additional access to the park, but I think there's better places to put it, such as over by the Little League fields, where there's already public parking, where there's already a partial path that goes towards the park, and where the public would get more use out of it. The main concern that most of us have, which hasn't been brought up yet, is parking. People are going to come down 147th Street, and they're going to realize that there's no entrance into the park with their car, and so they're going to pull along the side street and they're going to park. They're going to park on Dixon, and they're going to park on 147th. And the concern is what we already have now when there's football games. If you go down Rath Farm when there's football games, there is parking on both sides of the street. Those are narrow streets that aren't wide enough to accommodate all that. And people park and they have no concern for the homeowners. So they park up against the driveways, they park on the edges of the driveways, they park off the curb by 2-3 feet, they throw their trash out of their cars when they're done, and they do it simply so they can avoid the parking lots inside the football field. So parking is a big part of this. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to park on 147th. There's fire hydrants on 147th. They don't even acknowledge the fire hydrants that are on Rath Farm now during the football. There are a lot of homeowners that have already said, if they put this path in, I'm putting my house up for sale. And it's all because of the parking. And as John and other people have mentioned, the pond is abused now. So if you're going to put a path next to a 10-foot pond with no barrier whatsoever, you're asking for a safety problem right off the bat. So parking is the big concern. And there will be a lot of people parking because they already do it now for the football. So imagine if your community and your subdivision, if you walked out of your house to get in your car, and there were cars lined up and down your street as if there was a party all the time. That's what we don't want, and that's what we're going to have if you put the path there. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, you already talked.
I'd still like Carolina.
Christine, you want to come back up?
Oh, I can. Carol would like to come up. Carol is the wife.
Carol, yeah, you're one woman.
Shoot.
I'm like, but I can also come back.
Carol Garner, 14742 Dixon. That's on the west side of Dixon, across from the park, a couple of houses down. Other people have already addressed the parking issue, which is actually a really big problem. And the ball fields cause a problem already. And Frank described it very well. My child is grown now, so I don't have a child that I want to be able to take to the park. But I was in that position before. I had to load her in a car and go somewhere. We lived through it. But I understand. I would like to be able to quickly just go across the street, walk over into the park too, but not at the expense of having strangers from I don't know where or who parking. Right now, at least if there are strange cars in the neighborhood, we can kind of recognize that why would a car even be there? When there are people from outside the neighborhood using the ponds, we have 3 ponds, sometimes there will be 1, 2, 3, I've seen 4 cars at a pond at one time, all with strangers from outside of the neighborhood. Now, while it would be nice to be able to quickly get over to the park, get on the bike path is going to mostly attract people biking, but the entrance into the park is what's going to attract the outsiders. Right now, that she was getting off the school bus or visiting friends or whatever, and I knew that there were strange people, I don't know who, most people would be just like me, or like anybody else, just want to use the park. But not everyone. And I really don't want to invite unknown people into the neighborhood and have it just seem like no big deal, a bunch of strange people, a bunch of strange cars here. So at the same time, where it might benefit us to be able to take our children over to the park easily, it also brings in a scary situation of having strange people, cars parked, that can just zip away out to Cream Road. It's not a good situation. We have right now already, as someone else mentioned, since they've had in the industrial activity, the warehouses and whatnot, we've had an increase in cars being broken into in the neighborhood. I don't know if that's the cause of it, but we have seen more cars that just seem to drive through the neighborhood. The other thing is that a lot of people in the neighborhood, I noticed, much to my surprise, they leave their garage doors open. They better not leave their garage doors open anymore if we're going to be inviting people to park in the neighborhood. And the people that will want to come in the back way of the park would be just the people that you might be more worried about than those that want to come in the main entrance next to the police station and use the parking that's intended for that park. So I consider it a safety problem, a personal safety problem. I don't really need people sitting in their cars casing out what time we leave the house and go to work every day, when we come back, what we do. I don't like the idea of it. And I'm a bike rider, I want to ride my bike, and I want to go to the park and walk. And so far, I just have to go the long way around. The obvious answer, if you really want to get our little neighborhood to be able to get into the park, is to have the entrance to the ball field. It's already a public area. It's not that far. It doesn't necessitate people getting in their cars to go over there. They can still walk. And it reduces, it takes away the problem. The ballpark already causes a problem in the neighborhood when there's games. So I just feel the obvious answer is that we don't want the park access along the pond. And the pond will suffer with the people going back and forth. People will be sitting there, they'll bring their food, they'll bring their lunch, they'll throw their stuff out. They already do when they come over there to fish or just hang around the pond and drink. It's not going to be any better. I want to put benches there, so come and sit, eat lunch. We're going to put garbage cans there too, so people can throw their trash in them. And then who's going to take care of that? Who's going to take care of all that? So I just think that it's a overall negative, and it's hard for me to say that because I really would like to be able to just walk into the park really easily myself, but not at the expense of the parking and the safety of the neighborhood. I don't think it's worth it. And the fact that this is a convenient time to save money and all of a sudden it needs to be done, well, how all of a sudden would you want to subject your neighborhood to bringing in a lot of strangers because it was convenient? The original discussion about bike paths were to utilize the areas under utility lines and whatnot, not to be causing an attractive nuisance into somebody's neighborhood. I think the ballpark is the way to go if you want, and I would appreciate being able to get into the park. But I don't want to look out. Already I look out. I see people out there at the pond parked over there. I want to go out and take a walk. Maybe it's at nighttime. I really don't want to go out. Well, what's it going to be like when there's even more cars there? And all the people that have the kids are going to have to worry about the traffic in the neighborhood. In addition. So what's good for the kids might also turn out to be bad for the kids. So thanks. I know I repeated a lot. I just really see it as a safety concern in the neighborhood.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I have one more thing? I invite any of the trustees who want to come out and walk around with us to come on out, look at it. I know Sharon has got that, but the rest of you guys, come on out, look around with us.
So obviously, my family is in favor of it. I live at 14501 147th Street. I don't foresee that parking would be an issue. I mean, obviously by the ball fields, it's already an issue, and obviously I feel like that promotes negativity already because it's right around there. I wouldn't mind an access point right by the ball fields, but again, it's a high traffic area when you're with young kids, and there's already so much traffic in that particular area, and I believe you guys researched it. The area from the ballpark, unfortunately, isn't owned by the village, right? So you have to work with Homer Township, and they would have to grant you the approval to extend a path into here. If you didn't have, I don't even know, like over 200 and some odd parking spots here, I can understand why people might come into 147th and park their car there. But really, if you want to track and take advantage of all the resources that are in the park, they are literally in the middle. So for you to trek all the way through, park your car and trek all your stuff through, I just don't foresee that being realistic. So, I mean, again, I'm in favor of it. Sure, there are other places. I mean, this is a community park now. I realize it used to be a golf course, and the fence is, but it was necessary. But it's a park now, and I don't know any other neighborhoods in city of Chicago where I used to live and other neighborhoods that have a fence around a community park. So as far as granting access to that particular, there are barriers that you can put in. I know Chicago would put massive rocks so that they would know that this is a bike path. It is not a driveway per se. So I feel like there are a lot of good and positive things, especially putting that bike trail to connect everything together. And I also do think that there's resources and things available that could obviously make it safer and, you know, obviously restrict access of cars and things like that, so they truly know it's a bike path. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again.
Michelle?
Okay, just had a couple other things. So I would just like to say that there's been a lot of assumptions made here about, oh, it is going to be a parking issue and we are against that. I have 3-year-old twins and a 6-year-old son, and I don't see these issues that they're referring to with negative people coming in my neighborhood. Homer Glen was rated the #1 in safety in Illinois. So there's going to be onesies and twosies issues everywhere, but let's not make it a safety thing, because I'm not seeing that. I have no issues going outside. I'm outside all the time. We're always outside. We're a very active family, and this park has made everything for this community, and it's for all ages. It's not a children's park. You didn't build this for children. In fact, it's actually not even for children if you look at the park that you've built. You've done an amazing job, and we should get better access to it. And I don't think we can sit here and make assumptions that it's going to become a parking lot, because you guys have ample parking there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Ted?
Mr. Mayor, all these topics have been covered, and quite honestly, anything that I would bring to the table would just be redundancy at this time. So for time management, we'll let the meeting move on.
Thank you. John?
You want me to say something?
Well,
Angus Park, which is underwater, which I showed you guys the pictures of, all summer long we have. What you're saying you don't have any problem with is when people come in and when you got little kids. Well, Angus Park, people that park around that subdivision, because it's one way in, around, and back out. 51 homes in there. I would say the only thing is, it's Homer Glen's bike trail goes through it. All right, we're getting people putting swastikas on people's fences. You're getting people painting stuff, putting signs up there, crosses, headstones. I mean, no, they're right. You can't put this stuff where outsiders come and park in front of your house, because they do it by us, and we argue and fight with Homer Township because they maintain predominantly the park. But there's a couple tennis courts, basketball courts, and volleyball nets. So everybody from Cook County and Will County because it's only half a block west of Will Cook Road. So with that, everybody comes there. Well, where do they park? In the subdivision, not in the parking lot, because the games are at the other end of the park, so they park in front of people's houses or their driveway. And a couple kids, one girl 3 doors from me, got hit by a car. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't agree with you saying there's no problem with people parking. Yes, there is. We've had 50 years because that park was there when we built my house.
All right, public comments over for right now. Carrie, with this coming up and knowing that we'd like to get it in because we can save some money for the village, what kind of timeline do we honestly have?
I'm going to defer that to Mike. I did want to point out that up on the screens there are 2 options that could be pursued. One is the one that was presented in your packet, and then the other one is the one that was sent out later. You switch it, where it actually has 2 gate entrances into the park and a lesser run of pavement, which it actually could save some money as well by doing that and have a little bit more controlled access as well. But I'm going to defer the timing question to Michael.
Mr. Mayor, we've got, the contractor's already been selected, the contract's already been signed. We've already had conversations with the contractor. They're looking to get the pre-construction meeting scheduled as soon as possible so that they can get their construction completed. A couple things to consider on this bike trail is it would be constructed with an existing village right-of-way. Both 147th Street extended and Coachman Lane extended are village right-of-way. So this would all be constructed within current village property rather than having to try to negotiate with ComEd for any kind of easement access through their right-of-way. And then their lease agreement requirements are now such that you end up maintaining the entire ComEd right-of-way as part of your lease agreement. So those are some things to consider. Another thing to consider is that this would not only tie the Woodbine West subdivision and also Statler Ridge, which is on the west side of Cream Road, but it wouldn't just tie those into the park, but what it would also do is tie those subdivisions into the rest of the Heroes Trail system. So anybody from any of those subdivisions could actually make their way all the way to Yangas Park, where John Coy lives. And also the reverse. Anybody from the other portions of the community could make their way to the park and also to the library and to the sports complex facilities. So I believe the goal was, in some of the Parks Committee, was to try to make the village more walkable and more accessible by bikes and things of that nature. So
I think they understand that, and I understand some of the concerns that they have. Is the pond public or private?
Private. It's an HOA private property.
Yes, it is private, and one of the things that we did discuss internally was if there's a need to distinguish where the private property begins and the public property begins, we could install like a split rail fence along that to make sure that there was a clear understanding that, you know, the path was a separate piece of property from that.
All right.
Would that be on both sides? You got private property on both sides of the path.
Let's do this first. Let's get some questions answered with the board, because that's why you're here, to find out some answers. We'd like to get them to you. As for coming out, so John, this is where I sit down for a minute and let's get something together. I'll come out and meet you. I'll find out which trustee can come with me, because there's only 2 that can come out at a time, otherwise it's a quorum and then we're in trouble. We don't want that. We'll take a look and see what it is. You know, there's a possibility we can post no parking and set it up. I mean, I've gone to other villages where they section off. If it doesn't have a sticker showing you live there, you can't park there. As for a lot of the people that are parking down there for the baseball, football, or whatever the case may be, there is a park right here that has more parking than it could be needed. So if they put posting that there is no parking there, I mean, they can just put it no parking so even people who live there can't go in there. Because this way, if there is someone parked, policeman's going to know there's a car there, give them a ticket, they can stop that. So a lot of things we can do, but I apologize that things weren't worked out before we had this. That's why I'm asking you right now if we have time to be able to sit down with the guy that does want to develop it. Let's find out what we need. And then I'd also like to hear from some of the other people that are in the subdivision, because right now we have people saying no, we have a couple that are maybe, and then we have one that's yes. So, you know, we're trying to make a lot of people happy, and we know that it's impossible to do that. So we're going to work with what we can, figure out what's best for you guys and what's best for the village. So, like I said, I'll grab one of the trustees. You said Sharon's already been out there and Keith has already been out there, so they already know what they're looking at. So I can either take Ann, I can take Brian, I can take Beth.
I've walked in there.
Yeah, I was up there on Sunday.
You did walk in too?
I didn't do it, John, but I walked in.
Okay. All right, so it's Ann, Ruben, and Beth, did you walk in?
Yeah, I was just there on Sunday.
So it's one of you, because we can't all three do it. We'll go over there, we'll take a look at it. John will work with you, but then we want answers from a lot more people from your subdivision, because if we say we want to do it, and then you guys are saying you don't want to do it, and then we don't do it, then it's a possibility we've got some people from the subdivision that are mad because we're not doing it.
You can invite people here to talk to you about it. This was done in a rush, there was no time.
Okay,
to
no,
invite the people off of Coachman too, they should be invited.
I don't have a problem if you want to bring the whole subdivision. You know, so, well, you're not going to do that as much. That would be, you're just going to tick off some people.
Well, I think that also there's a bigger picture to look at. This is a community access. So the goal all along since this park started was to get access back there. It was more, where was that access going to be? This access makes sense because it ties into all of the trails. People who are going to use this, in my opinion, are people who are already on their bikes. If you're going to get in your car to go to Heritage Park, you're going to park in the parking lot. You're not going to park over here on the street and then walk all the way over here to get into the active core. And there's plenty of parking over here, so I think we need to make sure that you're looking at the bigger picture here, which is giving the entire community access to it.
And I understand exactly what you're saying, and all I want to do is I want to take a look. And I apologize to whoever the morons were that swore at your wife or told your wife to, whatever the case is. No matter what, you're going to have some people who are idiots. That's never ever going to stop. And as for the first, safest with the fifth, that's still very good. So, John, I'll get together with him. We'll figure out what we can do it. Obviously, it's got to be daylight. I don't care if Ann, Ruben, either one of you. You okay?
Yeah, I mean, I have some opinions already, but.
Well, everyone should be able to go over there and take a look
Yeah,
and see what their
totally.
issues are, because it's, you know, the one thing that we see a lot is, and it's not being disrespectful, but, you know, not in my backyard. So let's find out what we've got exactly, and then I'll set up a time with you, John and Gary, whoever wants to go.
Can we make sure Michelle comes too, so if we have the other opinion too?
So I just want to say, I cannot speak on behalf of the 107 homes in our subdivision. This is larger than this. This is not just Woodbine West Estates. So when I say that the village needs to do this, we have 6 homes here, 6 homes in my subdivision, and you've clearly heard from 4 of them that are posted at. There's 107 homes. So I'm happy to do anything.
Let's get them here.
Yeah, I'm happy. You know what? It doesn't work for everybody. I'm a working person. I'm gone from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. on most days. So that doesn't work for people that have kids and families. This meeting doesn't work. I am not going to get those people. You know how many people come to our board meeting? About 6. The same people that are here, they come. You cannot rely on this to give the opinion of that subdivision to come to this meeting and say they want it or they don't. And guess what? People aren't going to come and they feel threatened. Do you feel that? They are trying to bully or strong-arm opinions on other people in the neighborhood.
Well, that's why I want to sit down.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, I would say that you're pro in this. John, I see you're definitely against this.
I think there should be access, but I think there's other ways to get access.
Well, that's when we'll sit down, we'll take a walk around, see what's there. I can come back to the village and see 4 of the trustees up here have already looked at it and seen it. Then we'll decide after that. This way, you've been recognized. We're going to make sure that we do take a look at it. I would like to get it done as fast as we possibly can.
So I guess to answer that with Carrie and Mike, is this something that if it were tabled, is there going to be a problem waiting 2 weeks for a decision from the board in terms of the price?
I would have to check with the contractor. Part of we've had some delays waiting for the grant because the 151st Street, we do have a grant for that. So we've been waiting multiple weeks until we got notification that we were allowed to proceed with the project. So with this item, then we put them on hold kind of again. So I would have to check with the contractor and find out what.
I would also add that 2 weeks would be the most that we could delay this because it will, remember, it's not just the construction. There is some engineering design work that needs to be done to address grading and, the water and all that stuff in that area if we're going to put the path in. So there's some lead work that the engineer has to do before we even actually start to do the pavement as well. So I think that for 2 weeks, if we can come back and have a decision, a go or no go, I think that would be very helpful. Otherwise, we're just going to have to proceed with 151st Street.
I'd like to add that the 151st Street, for those who remember, I started that 2 years ago, and there was a push about a year ago. We were trying to get that in on the heels of Austin Tyler. I believe it was Austin Tyler while they were doing the pavement, the 319 and all that, in an effort to take advantage of them having their equipment on site and save some money. So while that is a laudable goal, it's not the overarching thing that's going to drive this for me. We've had other projects where we've tried to do that, but they've still taken a long time to come in for a landing. And if this is one of those that does that as well, while it might seem like we are foolishly spending money, I think prudence is going to be what dictates the way we go forward. So.
I agree with Keith. We've talked about northern access for 2 years. I don't see submitting this for approval with 2 weeks without even talking to the residents in those subdivisions. I just can't see it, and I do have an additional question with regard to the opening on the fence by the ball fields. So if someone could refresh my memory why we put the opening by the football field instead of by the ball field where there's a path.
I think it was for parking.
It was for parking for homecoming.
Right.
Because they didn't have enough room to park all the cars.
And I get that, but if we were to put the opening there where the ball field path ends and extend the path to the existing path that we put in, which extends to the parking lot, I guess that would make more sense to me. I don't see why our opening would put people out onto the football field. I get that the parking lot is there, but we could either put in an additional path or expand the path to make it paved in that short section. I just feel like there are other solutions here as opposed to that northwest corner. I'm not opposed to the one off of Saddlebrook per se, but I have some real concerns about the northwest corner.
Let's do this. So before we decide any of that stuff, let's go out and take a look. John, what did you?
The other issue is coming in between the ball fields there.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually two things. There was one of the places that Pam was against us coming through there, number one. And number two, the grade from where the park grade is to where the ball field grade is, it's like this.
Okay.
I mean, it's literally a drop. We would have to do a lot of work on the township side to make the grade where you could actually make it, where you could get into the park. It's just that area back there is just a very steep grade, and that's why we put that temporary entrance where it is, because it's level there. So people could walk across a level path, but you go farther north of where we opened it there, and the grade changes very rapidly. So there's no really good place to do that.
I wasn't sure, so thank you, appreciate that.
Excuse me, Mr. Robertson, I was back there. I was back there right up to the ball field path, and I didn't notice that.
Right from where the ball fields
where
are.
our fence ends.
Right. There's a very steep grade back there.
Yeah, but it's not a very big area that you have to patch from where.
Right, but it would all the
our
work would
fence.
be on the township side, And that may affect how their ball fields are, because there's not a lot of area between their fields there. And with that steep of a grade, we would have to, I mean, if you're gonna make a walking path, it has to meet certain requirements, and Michael could speak to that, where they have to be ADA and all other manners of things, and to make that grade out, I don't think you don't have the room back there.
Okay, the last bike path that we constructed, the IDOT, which did the reviews, required a 5% slope on it, a maximum 5% slope. So that would extend the path, quite a bit into the, there'd be a lot of fill and a lot of work in order to get it to that slope.
Okay. All right, when it comes to lot, we're not gonna get involved with the township on the trade. We're doing this on our property. So, John, I'll get a hold of you tomorrow, because I don't know what I have going tomorrow night. It's either gonna be tomorrow or it's gonna be Friday.
It can't be on the weekend, so Michelle could make it if she's available on the weekend.
Michelle, what time are you done with work?
I work at City of Chicago. I work at Gracie Medical Center, and I'm usually home by 6, but I have 3 young kids. So I can bring the twins. They can walk the path.
I'll be more than happy to help you with the kids too.
Tomorrow I'm not home until like 8, 9 o'clock. And
Figure if you can set something up for Friday so you're free, you can bring the kids. I don't think this is gonna take a ton of time. We're gonna take a look, see what it is, because I would like to get back to the village by either, well, it's not gonna be Friday, so by Monday to let them know of what we're thinking. As for getting a hold of the rest of the people,
Well, within 2 weeks, we'll be able to do a bookkeeping, put a mailer out to the residents and have them come here for a meeting.
Don, you've been to enough of these meetings, and you see how many people show up. That's why at the beginning of this meeting, when I talked about the voting.
Obviously, we're talking about something that's very passionate to people that live in the area. Either way, there's
Mayor, I can suggest for going out there for the field visit, great idea, right? But for the larger community or for the subdivisions most impacted, I would say that if we're going to postpone this for 2 more weeks, that will be a 3rd meeting that we will have this as a topic on the agenda, and that would be an opportunity for others in that subdivision with a 2-week notice at this point, right, to attend that meeting for a topic that will be on the agenda for a 3rd time. So that would be my suggestion for getting any additional input from residents. I concur with you on what my hesitation with anything that involves the township property is I don't know that we want to be dependent on the access to the centerpiece of our town on another governmental body. And what occurs or who may be in office at a certain time and access is blocked, or when we have property of our own. A couple other comments I would make just in general, and I do agree with Trustee Rogers, this impacts, there are the neighbors that are most affected by the direct access, but the view on this is for the larger good of the community, not just the nearest neighborhoods, which by the way, I do believe will be the most benefited from it by having the walking and biking access to the park without having to go out onto 151st or other ways. For the points on the illegal behavior and the trespassing, right, that is illegal behavior. And whether there is an access path or not, illegal behavior is illegal behavior. And that needs to be addressed separately. Trespassing issues, I think and it sounds like there's ways, and I know staff has already been working on this, for ways to make sure that we sign, whether it's a rail fence, other ways to make sure that that pond is viewed as private property. Is that a foolproof solution? No better than it is today, right? It's a private pond that is used by people that come into the neighborhood. The other point I make on the pond is that part of this park involves a fishing pond, which is meant to help alleviate some of the trespassing on lots of our homeowners' private ponds. So there is a pond that is beautiful with the step stone, and that is going to be stocked and be a fishing pond, which I hope not only helps alleviate in Woodbine West, but other ponds that are homeowner funded. So I would say that's my view on those 3. The ball field entrance in general, I'm not sure, the township side of the park, I'm not sure what it fixes with still access from the road. If people want to use a alternative access point for nefarious behavior, they're going to find a way for nefarious behavior. If they're going to park on a road, if the thought is by access to the ball fields, they're going to use the parking at the township ball fields, they would just use the parking, which I think the overriding majority of people that use this park by car are going to park within the ring road and the additional parking. And so, which is closest to the amenities, right? So, opening this up to Mr. Coy's valid points on Angus Park, which is a township park, there's no parking there, right? So it's a very different situation. The street parking at Angus has a gravel at best, overgrown sort of small 3-4 car, not even really a designated parking area. This is completely different with the expense we put into this ring road to accommodate the parking in this park. And the last point I would make, because I do understand the concerns of the residents most affected by it. I myself live on an area where my backyard has one of our community paths, 10-foot wide bike path. And where my house is, I'm 2 houses off of one of the main access points, right, where it begins, for lack of a better term. And the road that's on is an even more main artery of the subdivision I'm in than 147th Street would be. So when the path was proposed, we had and heard many of the same concerns, that we were going to have parking and people wanting to come and use and jump on and unload their bikes and ride the paths. So it's been there for, I don't know, I'm going to guess 7 or 8 years now. And what I can tell you when talking to my neighbors to a person, the concerns that we had were not based on what actually has turned out to be. It's been a great addition to our neighborhood. There isn't the people parking to hang out on the trails because, you got teens that want to, whatever teens may do. And it's not been the case. It's been a great addition to our neighborhood. And I think that this would be very similar, not disregarding any of the concerns of the other things, but those are issues, the trespassing, the illegal behavior, someone pulling in on 147th Street to park, to access from the rear, when all of the amenities are going to be in the front part. I just don't necessarily agree with, and I still think these are the best options to not just for the surrounding neighborhoods, which I still think will benefit the most, but for the greater community.
Right. And we can have the police, I plan on talking to the police about it because, like I said, that shouldn't happen in the first place. But parking-wise for the park has all the parking that it could possibly need. So let me sit down with you and Michelle, if we can, Friday night. So I'll make sure I give you my card so you get my cell number.
Friday night won't work. I'll make something work Friday during the day. I'll work from home or something like that, but, so.
You tell me what time
Yeah.
Friday and.
We can, confer after this.
Yeah, one last quick point. One point I missed. Someone mentioned potential drainage issues, causing additional drainage issues with putting this path off of 147th Street. That would be part of the design process by HR Green to make sure that that's not an issue or it doesn't create that issue. So that would be addressed in the design engineering of that. So not just want to make sure you know it's something that will be examined and not just disregarded.
Mayor, I'd like clarification on one more point also. The packet piece we're looking at has a budget of approximately $107,000, $95,000 for construction based on the 151st Street extension that we've already approved. This is not including the gates that we're seeing in this, right? This is not including the half gates like we're seeing being built right now in the active core.
Right.
No benches, nor any fencing, things of that nature.
Well, that's correct. The benches and the proposed gateway entrance things are not part of it.
Right, that's what the gateways are presumed to be, the little half arches that we see out there with the stone pediment.
I have a few comments, Mayor. Well, talking about gateways and benches, I don't think they should be there. Because
I just wanted to clarify that it's not part of the budget.
Yes,
You know,
yeah,
that as drawn is not as priced.
okay, and I think we definitely need to remove the bench. If this goes through in that area, definitely remove a bench that's overlooking the pond because that's just causing more issues. One of my main concerns is the division. How do we, is the village going to pay to have fencing? Because it is tight. When you go take a look at it, it's tight there because the private property is right there and it's smack dab in the middle of it. How are you going to separate that? Separate so that people aren't, hey, this is all part of the park entrance, something like that. And then what does the board think about having, and I don't know, having most of the path inside? I know, and how does that affect the 319 area? There's a lot of questions we still have. Is that because I see, that way the property is Mr. White's property wouldn't have the path running down his whole length of that fence, that it would, if this happens in that area, it would cut in a lot quicker into the park area, but how is that affecting anything inside the park then? The other entrance, I don't think I have a problem with that. The other issue is, how does that get patrolled at night? Here in the ring road, the patrols can go around. Back there, there's nothing. I don't know if that becomes an issue, but I mean, when they were cutting into the fence to get into the park before, we had to keep repairing the fence back there.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly on the benches. I think any of the benches should be within the park. And I also agree with you, which is why I think I prefer option 2, the newer option, where that path doesn't run entirely behind, but one, I think it's more cost effective, and 2, as much of this that we can contain in the park, the better. So I agree with you on the benches, along that path. You don't want to, it's meant to be accessed, not to sit and loiter necessarily.
Right.
So if we're doing benches, just keep everything within the park.
And it wouldn't cost, if this goes through, it wouldn't cost that much then to put some nice split rail fencing along both, and that would show people where to get in. We don't need to spend money on a half arch and things like that. I think that's unnecessary back there.
How about if you let, Ruben and myself are gonna be going over there? Okay.
That's all I do. I'd like to go too, but I'd just like to say one last thing in closing, because it sounds like we're tabling this. I don't feel it would be responsible on our part to rush this through to save potentially $15,000 or $20,000. I think we've been talking about emergent access for 2 years, and we should have reached out to those residents before now. And I just think there's a lot of unanswered questions and maybe other possible scenarios here that we shouldn't be rushing this through to save what is in the big context, in picture-wise, as far as what we're spending on the park, a drop in the bucket. Thank you.
Well, my point is, let us go over there, let's take a look, and then we can find out. The engineers, like Trustee Berry, you just got done saying, they're gonna make sure there's no flooding problems. That's why they're engineering the property. Let's find out how far it is, how they can change it, whatever they can do. So we'll do that Friday. So John, you're gonna have to figure out if you've got the same time.
Whatever Michelle's doing, fine, I'll make it work.
All right. So I need a motion to table to next week or to the next meeting.
I so move to table it until the next time.
Second.
Wait, who's the first?
Who's Roger Theory?
Brian, okay, so they need to amend the motion. So Brian, you made the.
Make a motion.
Right. So Beth, you have to amend it and then Brian.
I just table it till the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Can I make one last comment on this? Sorry. I did submit a proposal to the township back in September, and you're exactly right, where we proposed coming through, they said it was floodplain. It was not something that they were even interested in entertaining. That is a ball field, and basically that's an athletic park, and they would have to get the opinions of not only their own township board, but all the athletic associations. So I did submit that proposal back in September, and that went nowhere. I also urge you, do not take the opinions of the people that show up in this meeting. And, there are people that work at night that can't attend this meeting. You should do something like an online survey. When you originally put out this concept plan and you sent it out to all the residents with a letter, maybe you do an online survey with a code specific so that people can feel like they can have a vote in this without having to show up to a 3-hour meeting because they're carting their kids around, or they're working, or they're doing other stuff. So please, do not make this meeting in 2 weeks that I've got to go around campaigning the neighborhood, dragging people out to come to a 3-hour meeting. Please.
I'm sure we can work out something. I'll get together with the village manager tomorrow, and
That's all we were promised, was community input, and for 2 years we didn't get it, so that's one big reason.
Online survey is a great one.
yeah. Okay, I need a, all right, so, okay. Roll call, please. All right, number 3. Is there a motion to assign a Class C liquor license, temporary license to Assumption Greek Orthodox Church located at 15625 South Bell Road, Homer Glen, for the Be Greek for a Day festival occurring on July 19th through July 21st, 2019. So moved.
A second.
Mr. Durian, Trustee Rogers, discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Burien?
Aye.
Trustee Pesmino?
I abstain.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, is there a motion to assign a Class J liquor license, special event license to the Village of Homer Glen, 14240 West 151st Street, Homer Glen, for the Homer Community Festival occurring on June 20th through 23rd, 2019. It is understood that the $200 fee for said license will be waived by the village.
So moved.
Trustee Suisse.
Second.
Trustee Holtz. Discussion.
Do we know these guys? Do we really want to wait $200?
I don't know. All right. No. Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Burien?
Aye.
Trustee Pesmino?
I abstain.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the March 2019 Mahoney Suburban Cross LLC bills in the amount of $6,960?
So moved.
Trustee Suisse.
Second.
Trustee Gray. Discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pesmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Burien?
Aye. Motion carries. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Trustee Rogers,